And we are live. Welcome, Grots and Gits. I am Doc Crump, and I'm freaking excited to have you all here. Today only, you're about to see something crazy. It's about to happen. I'm going to take off my competitive hat. Yes, I'm bald. It's true. And I'm going to put on my fanboy hat. I'm pumped. It's 11th edition, and I haven't gotten to come hang out with you guys for a little while, so I wanted to just do a little bit of a fanboy stream. So I'm going to talk about freaking cool stuff that we're about to see in 11th edition. I'm going to give you some of my spin on some of it, what I'm actually thinking. You guys all know I do not believe anyone should be playing 11th edition right now. I think that is a disaster, and it's going to make you worse in 11th edition. But I'm freaking excited about it, and you should be too, because some of these rules that we've seen have just freaking awesome. So that's what we're going to kind of discuss today. I want to hear you guys' thoughts. So I'm going to be engaged. I'm reading chat. You guys have comments, questions. Man, pop them up there because there's just so much freaking stuff to talk about. And I'm pretty freaking pumped to really just dive on into everything. So, without further ado, let's freaking get started. I'm not going to go through literally every single change, but I'm gonna hit quite a few of them because I want to kind of talk about how the mechanics are going to work with 11th edition, and then I do want to go through some of these faction focuses because I think that's some of the most interesting stuff that they've just been starting to release this week, which is honestly really freaking dope. There we are. Hey, we got some people in the chat there. I see a Caliban Green. Oh my goodness gracious. He's saying that he's hoping an apothecary is getting 1 point to detachment. So basically, as far as I can tell, every single one of these faction previews that we've seen are all 1 point detachments. We can just start there, basically. What I actually think is one of the most interesting and coolest changes about 11th edition is this freaking detachment change. Like, my goodness gracious, these detachment change is absolutely unbelievable. It's going to create the most customizable, like, just in-depth, cool, freaking ways of building armies that I've ever even considered. Like, this is way beyond what I really considered. So I'm super excited about that. And of course, we got GB with the first trolling super chat. I love you. And you know what? He's asking if this is an 11th edition battle report. He knows I'm all about those 11th edition battle reports. Sarcasm. He said I loved him. He gave me some beer money. My man, this beer is for you. This is Guinness, and this stream is not sponsored by Guinness, but it is sponsored by GB. So thank you so much, Mr. GB. This one's for you. Also, Guinness, you should sponsor the stream. I think that'd be a really great plan. So let's talk about these detachment rules, man. These things are freaking sick. You're going to have anywhere between 1 and 3 point detachments. We know from the articles that have been released that all of these detachments that are in like current play, well, not all of them, but the majority of these detachments are freaking 2 point detachments. And what that means is that you get to create up to 3 points. So if you take, I'm spitballing here. I don't actually know this, but let's take the Big Hunt from the Orcs. You got to be really careful how you say that name. The Big Hunt. Let's say that's a 2 point detachment. Well, we can still combine that with one of the 1 point detachments, which was just released, which we'll talk about here in a minute. The one with the auto 6 advancing battle wagons and kill rigs. Like, that would be actually a really cool customizable thematic way to actually get your armies operating in really sick ways. So I am freaking here for it. Like, it is seriously awesome stuff that is making me a pretty dang happy boy. So I just had to switch that off of there for a second. So I can't freaking wait for any of that. But let's talk about some of the other things that are coming up. All of the codexes, all the campaign books, and yeah, that does mean that basically all the Grotmas detachments look like they're all staying. That's sick, dude. Like, if you're here for it and you're wanting your detachments to stay real and alive, dude, your detachment's here. We're not losing any of the cool stuff that we've gained, and we're only getting a crazy amount of super sick stuff. Like, Games Workshop. That's freaking awesome. I can't believe it. So the biggest problem that I had with 10th edition, and competitively wise and rule wise, 10th edition was the cleanest, best edition of Warhammer that we've ever played. Like, just the gameplay is super clean. I really enjoyed it, but we did lose a lot of the flavor from 9th edition. But we have that freaking flavor back in new rules, this customizable kind of battle forces. I'm just so freaking here for it. One of the other cool things about these new detachments is that we're going to get these new enhancements, that we can actually take these enhancements and put them on units. Can you imagine units? If you guys were here for 9th edition, you know about like the custom jobs that orcs could have. Like, I don't know if you guys are in the chat would recall this, but you could put like squig high tires on your freaking kill rig to give it +2 inches to its move. Or you could upgrade a unit of orcs to be truck boys, which means they could always just get out of the truck after it moved and still charge. But you could do that in any detachment. It kind of seems like what they're trying to do is give you these enhancement options to put on just units, so you can kind of do stuff like that, which really makes me super freaking happy. I kind of love that concept. It's basically super sick. They unit enhancements, I think they're calling them upgrades. They are taking a full enhancement slot, but that's kind of freaking awesome, man. You could put up to 3 units. So you can customize your units, you can customize your detachments, you can customize everything. My goodness gracious, that's freaking awesome. And in addition to that, we are going to even be able to customize the way that we win the game because of these new, like, the new way that our primary emissions are operating. You can create an army that's specifically designed just to murder your opponent's faces off. And that's how you get your points. You get your points for murdering your opponent's faces off, not for standing on whatevers, because your primary is controlled by the way that you design your army list, which, honestly, I don't even know how that's going to work, but I can tell you I freaking love it. I do have some knowledge that the initial release of 11th edition is going to be, it's going to be a little bit rocky, but it's not going to be an alpha state release like you were hearing, like if you were here for the beginning of 10th, which was basically an alpha state release, and you guys know I actually love GW, but the alpha state release of 10th edition was a hot mess. We're not going to have that in 11th edition. There's going to be some things, there's going to be kinks that need to be worked out, but we're not going to experience the psychopathy of what we did with the release of 10th, which is a beautiful thing that I am so happy to hear. Like, I'm very happy to hear. Bro, I was here in the dark days. I was there at the WTC where every single team had 2 Wraith Knights on every single Elder army. It was a terrible days. It was terrible days. So we're not going to have that on release of 11th, which makes me so happy. So happy I'm going to celebrate with a nice big sip of Guinness, which is, once again, still not sponsoring this stream. Let's see. Let me see what you guys are saying. GB is saying he really likes the new level for balancing can just be keyword and certain detachments to not work together instead of... Yeah, I actually really like that. So what he just said, basically, was one of the problems with the current edition is that you might have a unit that's really good in one detachment, but it sucks everywhere else. And so what they do is they nerf that unit so it's turbo terrible in every other detachment and only moderately playable in one detachment, so that they can do it in multiple ways like that. I think that's a really good way. It gives them more options of how they're going to actually balance units, which, dude, that makes me really happy. I'm completely here with you on that one, JB. And then Spirit of the Gorg says, I was an MMA fighter. Yeah, bro. Man, my entire life. Yeah, actually. Yeah, so, man, I competed in Taekwondo as a child from, like, ages 6 to, like, 18. Then I was a boxer as well. When I went to university, I started fighting MMA, and I started fighting kickboxing. So I had, like, 13 fights in Muay Thai. I had 7 in MMA. I was 6-1. I was always an amateur in MMA. But I had some paid for fights in Muay Thai. And then when I was in the Army, I was a close combatives instructor. So yeah, man, that's been my life for a long time. That's what I thought I was going to do for a living. I thought I was going to be a fighter until I went to start working my doctorate. It was kind of like weird how that whole transition happened. Sorry, that was a little bit of a aside from Games Workshop stuff. But he asked the question, so I answered the question. Today's I'm drinking and I'm hanging out with you. So my life is a open book for you guys. Yeah, so that's what we're talking about as far as, like, the customization of, like, detachment building and all that cool stuff. But there's even more cool stuff. Now we don't have to worry about those circular objectives, which actually hurts my feelings. And you guys in the chat, does anyone feel bad that, like, you got to buy these really sick looking, like, customized objectives and now they just don't exist anymore? Like, I've seen some really badass looking objective markers, and they're not going to be usable anymore. It's actually a little bit sad. Although I think narratively and, like, thematically, it's going to be way cooler looking on the tabletop that we get to use our terrain as our objective markers. But, like, yeah, I mean, I'm not salty at all. I certainly wasn't, getting ready to start producing custom objective markers to sell. That certainly wasn't happening. There's no way that's something that I had put a lot of time and effort into. that is now not going to come out. Okay, Another kind of like little tidbit for you guys. Actually, I'm going to pull this one up. I want to show you guys this really, really cool thing. Let's see. We had, let me find this thing I really want you guys to see. There was a, yeah, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to show you guys something with the terrain that was coming on. Because, yeah, actually, I think this is it. No. There was something really cool that was happening with terrain. Anyway, I don't remember which article it was. I'll find it for you guys later. But one of the cool things that's happening with terrain is it looks like we're actually getting a little bit less terrain coverage. But since it's all going to be really focused on the center of the maps, the terrain is going to be in such a way that it covers all the relevant parts of the battlefield. No longer are you going to have one of your terrain pieces in the far left corner, which really nothing's happening at. However, this does, and all of you guys who are doomsayers saying this is just a melee detachment, what does this tell you? It tells you that deep strikes and ingresses and things are actually going to be significantly scarier for people. Like, how are you going to screen those 8-inch deep strikes, especially when you don't have terrain and stuff to hide in, to cover up in at the far corners of your, man, I gotta show you this. I'm just ranting here, but I gotta actually show you this. Like, I gotta find this one. If you guys remember which article it was in where they were showing the terrain. Let's see. This isn't it, is it? No, that's not it. Which terrain was it? Maybe it was this? No, that's the Tyranids faction focus. So Big Dave's asking, he wants to know if WTC terrain will have big windows again. WTC terrain is actually going to use the same terrain as Games Workshop terrain. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure, and I don't know this for certain, but I'm almost sure all of the different terrain guys are going to be consolidated, which is actually a really, really sick thing. Like, UKTC is going to be basically using the same terrain as everyone else. That's awesome. UKTC, GW, WTC, it's all going to be consolidated under one thing. And honestly, man, I'm freaking here for it. That is like absolutely awesome. Where was that thing? Is this what it? Yeah, I can't find it, guys. Sorry. I really wanted to show you a picture of the terrain layouts so that I could make my point that I was making about, but I don't think I'm gonna find it here. I'll keep wondering, Winnie. Oh yeah, I'll just type it in Google. What am I being stupid here? What is this called? 11th edition, 40K terrain images. Wow, this is terrible. Whoever said this was a horrible recommendation. All right, well, whatever. I'm gonna give up. So anyway, because of that, you're going to see things like deep strikes and stuff be extremely scary, and that is going to cause a huge upset in the balance of like our melee and our shooting. So many people have been looking at all of this early release stuff, and they're thinking that this is going to be a melee only edition. Everyone's only going to get to play melee, but bro, 8-inch deep strikes, terrain all centralized in the center. You're going to have to really, really, really try to actually screen your home field. It's going to be incredibly challenging to do. Like, incredible. Oh, you're right. You know what? You're right. It is going to be layout. Thank you. I should type out layout. All right. Let's try this one more time. Layout. Now. Still sucks. Still sucks. I tried. Oh, well. It is what it is. We tried, gents. It's just impossible to show you guys ever. Oh, well. You're going to have to use your imaginations and accept I know what I'm talking about here. So that's one of the cool things that's happening with terrain. The terrain itself is going to make it harder to get shot off the board turn 1, but it's also going to make it a heck of a lot harder to be safe from shooting later on in the game, which is a very very cool thing. I think it's a great way of balancing your melee and your shooting mechanics, because 40K has always, and I mean always, been a shooting favored game. But it's always been a scoring favored game when it comes to melee. So melee units have always scored better, but shooting armies have always killed better. So I think it's a kind of a cool way that GW is kind of like trying to bring balance to the two real main play ways of ways of playing the game, or at least dealing damage to the game. One of the craziest things that's changing here, which I actually kind of don't like, and this is actually a criticism of GW11. So I actually really want to know if you guys agree if this is like a reasonable criticism. I do not like the way that at least I'm scared. I'm scared. I admit it. I'm scared about this part of 11th edition, about the way that primary missions are actually going to be working, because this is going to get absolutely insane, especially when it comes to teams. Now, for those of you who don't play teams, this probably doesn't matter too much to you. And I don't necessarily really care about teams nearly as much as I used to. I'm really kind of moving on into a singles focus. This will probably be my last year playing on the WTC for a little while. I love my friends. I love everyone I've done there, but this will be my 4th year playing at the World Team Championship. So I think I'm going to take a break and I'm just going to focus on singles for a little bit after this year. So if you're if you're in Belgium, if you're in Mechelen, come and see me and I'll give you a high five and we'll drink whiskey infused beer. But it's going to cause chaos in how we actually do teams pairings. So imagine this. Currently, you have to, when you're doing teams, you got 8 people against 8 people. You have to estimate how well you perform on X mission against Y team on Z terrain. That's actually really complicated. It's actually really hard to predict the way the scores go in teams. And it's one of the highest skills that make people really good at teams, is predicting how a match should go based off the terrain you're going to play on, the mission you're playing on, and the opponent's army that you're playing against. But now it's different because we can't predict what the mission is. Because now the mission is going to be whatever your army's primary mission is against whatever your opponent's primary mission is, and whatever the algorithm spits out to say, hey, this is the mission that you're playing. So there aren't going to be set missions, which is going to wreak havoc through teams. I'm actually really nervous about it this year. I don't really know how it's going to be. I don't know. It's honestly going to be really, really crazy. So for those of you out there who also really like teams, it's gonna be a little bit speaky. Terrain Junkie says he linked the terrain. I'll find that later. So anyway, I am actually kind of concerned about that. That's probably the only thing I really don't necessarily like. Something that people were I heard people asking about was the changes to cover. So people were asking, well, if cover gives -1 ballistic skill, what does stealth do? Because stealth gives cover. Stealth gives cover. So in this edition, stealth just gives you cover. It doesn't give you a -1 to hit modifier. It's actually giving you a -1 to the ballistic skill, just like cover does, and they will not be stacking as far as we can tell. Unless there's some really, really bizarre ruling that says you can get cover from multiple sources to stack the -1 ballistic skill. That's what's happening. So since we're on terrain, I just kind of want to talk about this. So these are like some of the broad mechanical changes that are happening in 11th edition. I think I like it. I think all of the mechanical changes from that have been revealed, whether it's charges, whether it's pile-ins, whether it's whatever, I basically like all of it. I like the Overwatch at the end of the turn thing. I think that's great, even though it is kind of sad because it removes a little bit of like the player's ability to bait out Overwatches and stuff. It just smooths the game out. It makes the game so much faster, which is one of the things that I'm really excited about in 11th edition. This game's going to play faster. Like, it's just going to play faster, guys. That's really freaking cool. How many of you guys have been in the slog of a game and you're like, this is my 3rd game. I've played 3 3-hour games today. I'm freaking exhausted. It would be really nice to play 3 2.5-hour games. I think that would be really, really cool. If this game could just go a little bit faster, not only would it just make the days a little bit more friendly and make it more a little less exhausting to go to tournaments, I think it'd become a much more interesting game to watch as well. I think we'd get more people interested in spectating to watch 40K if the games were just a little bit faster. I think that's one of the main things that we were looking at doing during these transitions to 11th edition. So let's go through some of these changes. I think this is really cool. So coverage changing. It's just -1 ballistic skill. That's all it is. We still have the obscuring, so if you're behind the plate, people can't see you. Plunging Fire is changing currently, and now in Plunging Fire, you're going to be getting +1 to your ballistic skill instead of +1 to your AP. And Plunging Fires also means that you only have to be 3 inches up and targeting units on the ground level to get it. It makes it a lot easier to get Plunging Fire. Plunging Fire is one of those annoying things in 10th edition where it's like, where it just didn't exist even though it was a rule. Like, it basically only existed if you played WTC. It didn't exist on GW terrain in GW's game, which is a little bit bizarre. But yeah, so Plunging Fire is actually something that's going to be relevant in the game now, which I think is cool. For those of you who know, Stompas will be hitting on 3s. I'm just saying, Stompas will be hitting on 3s. Prepare mortals for all of the devastation that's going to be happening. Yeah. So if Stompas hitting on 3s, I'll be a happy boy. Space Heretic says, any opinion on rumors that the WTC guys are playing on GW in 11th? I can't confirm that, but I'm almost positive that's happening. Like this is not actually confirmed, but I'm pretty sure UKTC, WTC, GW, I think it's going to be one terrain layout from now on, which is, I think, really good for the game. I think it's super, super good for the game. Like, we should all be playing the same game. It's kind of weird that when I fly to the United States to play in a tournament, I'm basically playing a different game than if I fly to Belgium for a tournament. Like, they're effectively different games, with their terrain being that dramatically different. So, I don't know. I love the fact that we're doing a consolidated game. So, yeah, all right. Hidden, the 15-inch loan up for infantry, beasts, and swarms inside terrain. This is something that I've seen a lot about misconceptions about. People are saying, oh, it just means that, melee gets to stand there and never get shot, and there's no threats to melee at all. No, that's not what it means at all. If you've seen the terrain layouts, the reality is it's actually going to be really easy to draw in line of sight to models inside the terrain. It's actually been really hard to actually hide behind the terrain. So it's just kind of a balancing act. It's saying, okay, look, you have to get close enough to actually cause damage to me, but then I'll be close enough to reach out and touch you, is what it's saying. Not to mention, you can't just stand there and shoot people and get loan up. You actually lose the loan up buff if you are doing any shooting yourself. So it's not nearly what some people are freaking out about on the internet. One of the really interesting mechanics now, which is going to change a lot of things, is units can only be affected by one stratagem per phase. That's kind of wild. No more stratagem stacking. That's going to have a pretty significant impact. It's going to have a really significant impact. Holy crap, we got Isaac Gutierrez Brisno in here. He says, greetings from Mexico. Mr. Isaac, I love you. I can't wait to see you at Worlds again. Hopefully we get to hang out a little bit more this coming year. I know this past year we didn't really get to hang out all that much, but the previous year we did. So hopefully we'll get to hang out a little bit more. And he wants to know if I think orcs will be a good option for Worlds. Dude, everything's going to be a good option for Worlds. Everything's going to be freaking awesome. Everything is awesome. If you guys know that song, you know. But yeah, typically your original, the earlier codex releases are going to be the stronger armies. It's just how it is, right? Okay. Overwatch, we already spoke about that. I just have a list that I want to talk about. Heroic. Oh my god, did you guys see the heroic intervention changes? When I first read the heroic intervention changes, my mind started to get swayed for a second. I actually did for a moment think that, okay, maybe this is going to be the melee, freaking edition, because I saw that, and that is powerful. So for those of you who don't know, heroic intervention has been changed to, for 1 CP, at the end of the charge phase, you get to charge anything within 12 inches that made a charge move. This means a couple things. It means you better be committed when you're charging. It also means that if you have charge buffs, that is huge. Because no longer will you be able to spend 1 CP to heroic intervene and then a CP to reroll that charge. You can't do it anymore because you can't stack stratagems on units anymore. So if you have buffs to your charge, Dante giving you +1 to charge, that's actually going to be freaking huge. And then for 2 CP, instead, so yeah, heroic intervention is kind of weird thing where you can spend 1 CP to charge anything within 12 inches that made a charge move, but you could also choose to spend 2 CP and charge anything that's within 6 inches of you. So effectively, every army in the game is going to be as awesome as the Dark Angels right now with their lean and aggression strat. And if you guys know me and my Dark Angels, that makes me very happy because now my Blood Angels can be Dark Angels, and that's awesome. And my goodness gracious, I have a beautiful salute from the glorious and the incredible Mass Brofect. whose name is named after the greatest video game series in history, and I will hear no dissent. If anyone here doesn't believe that the Mass Effect series of games is the best series of games, you're just wrong. You're just damn wrong, actually. You're not even close to right. You're super, super wrong. Just the way it is. Johnny Pop-Tart wants to know, will strat stacking really be affected? It says per phase, so I'll still be able to throw a grenade, then get lethal hits. Well, yeah, but you're stacking those in different phases, right? You can't use the same strat in the same phase. So like the example I just gave, spend 1 CP on heroic intervention, and then also try to CP reroll it. You can't do that, right? So yeah, it's going to be severely, severely affected. Like, severely affected. Okay. So hero can also be used by vehicle character units as well as vehicle walkers, which is cool. So like all those of you who were really concerned that Wazdaka Gutsmech, the coolest freaking orc in existence, was not going to be out hero can intervene. Boom, 11th edition he can. Boom, that's great. One of the really awesome changes that I'm super pumped for, guys, Battle Shock now has no end to it. Once you're battle shocked, you are battle shocked. You have to pass a leadership test to become unbattle shocked. This is awesome. So I'm one of the few people I think out there who really likes battle shock mechanics right now because I think it's already really impactful. Now it's going to be dreadfully scary in battle shocking, because if you get battle shocked, you don't automatically unbattle shock. I think that's a really, really powerful one. GB3 says Dark Souls and Elden Ring would like a chat. No, not even close. All right, I will grant you this. Dark Souls, Elden Ring. If you want to put Elden Ring up against any one of the trilogy of Mass Effect, fair play. I think we've got a good conversation to have. But if you want to say the Dark Souls and Elden Ring, like, you know, universe against the Mass Effect trilogy, you've got no argument. You're dead in the water, son. You're dead in the water, son. No chance. It's the way it is. Mass Bro Effect with a 10. Human-born N7 bred, you beautiful bastard. Yes, sir. Ugh. Shepherd for life, man. Shepherd for life. This one's for you, sir. I don't know, man. I'm pretty sure I played through the Mass Effect games like an embarrassing amount of times. I think the only game I ever played more than Mass Effects were the original not the original, but Baldur's Gate 2 Shadows of Am. I think that was probably the only game I actually have played more than Mass Effect. I've probably played the game like 15 times. Okay, getting back to Warhammer stuff. Chris wanted me to clarify what changed with Battle Shock. When you are Battle Shocked now, my friend, you have to in 11th edition. Mind you, this stream is all 11th edition. Everything I'm saying is 11th edition. None of this is 10th. You're going to have to pass a leadership test in order to become unbattle shocked in your command phase. And that is really, really strong. It makes Battle Shock a way scarier rule. And it really makes some things in my head go off. It really makes me think that my Hammer of Averni list is a lot scarier now, because now I can put where I can start using those Assault Terminators to force Battle Shock tests a lot more often, Reavers, things like that. You can really do Battle Shock mechanic list, and I think it's actually very, very interesting. So, Cal58 says, for a new starter, 11th big box, shall I buy for the works? Dude, I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was a really funny short. I was trying to find it before the stream because I wanted to show it to you guys, but I couldn't locate it. But it was a short. It was effectively had these two guys wearing signs on their shirts that said, totally a Games Workshop employee. Obviously, they were not Games Workshop employees. And the skit was really freaking funny because what they were doing is they were sitting there saying, guys, we did it. We spent the last year and a half. We curated all these beautiful new sculpts. We got the artwork perfect. We got all of the rules set. The world is going to be so excited about our blood, sweat, and tears that we put into the orcs. These models are gorgeous, and we're going to sell out. Y'all did a great job. This is the manager talking to his team. I'm going to give you all of next week off since we're going to the printers. It's happening. We're here. Congratulations. Cheers to you. Have a great night. And all the employees kind of walk out of the room, and then they all sprint back on the screen, and they're like, holy crap, we only have an hour left. We forgot about the Marines. What do we do about the Marines? Copy and paste. Copy and paste. We need new Vanguard vets. JPI with Power Sword. We need new intercessors. The exact same intercessors. It was just a super, super funny skit. It was like, yeah, well, that's kind of what it's kind of what it seems like happens. The orcs are freaking amazing, and the Marine half the box might be the biggest miss that GW's have in quite a while. I laughed really hard when I saw it. I wish I could find the actual thing. If I do, I'll post it in the Discord for you guys. Or maybe if I find it, I can link it down below and kind of give a shout out credit to those guys because it was actually really, really super funny. Matty Kiro Gaming, he says, in the Games Workshop video where they mentioned the Battle Shock, were they indicating such units can only hit on 6s? I don't believe so. I remember what you're talking about. No, the only thing where it comes to hitting on 6s that I could find was the new snap shooting, which Overwatch is snap shooting. And this was one of the cool things where they're saying what a snapshot is you only hit on 6s and you can't re-roll the hit roll. So Overwatch is like weirdly more powerful, but it's also a little bit less powerful now because you can't stack the re-rolls with it. But it's also at the end of the phase, so you get to see where everyone moved before you choose to Overwatch. So it's kind of like this weird little thing. Yeah, okay. So grenades has been reworked to be usable by grenade and explosives units. And it can now be used after you fall back, written in the stratagem. So that's cool. I really enjoy that. They've also updated the way that coming in from reserves work. They are now referred to as ingress moves, whether it's deep strike, reserve entry, rapid ingress, whatever. It's called all an ingress move. And it's always going to be banned in turn 1 unless the ability specifically says you can arrive in turn 1. So things like the Lion or Wazdaka being able to go into reserves turn 1 and come back on the battlefield because they start on the battlefield, that is now, poof, no longer exist unless their ability is updated to say they specifically can ingress in turn 1. So that has changed. I have sad feelings about it because my special boys are, becoming a little bit less exciting, unfortunately. Hurts my feelings. It's sad. But it is what it is. Okay. Let's talk about charge and fight mechanics. Let's talk about some of these new charge mechanics. These are some of the things that I really think are going to just dramatically speed up the gameplay. One of the things, the biggest thing that everyone is talking about is the ability just to throw the dice and then see where you're going to be able to make the charge. This is something that I think is going to make the game, 1, more accessible, and 2, it's just going to make the game go so much faster because no longer are you going to need to sit there and say, oh, do I risk this 8-inch charge or do I take this free 3-inch charge? What do I do? You don't do that anymore. You throw the dice, you see where you end up. It just makes life so much freaking easier. The game speeds up. It also helps tremendously because you're going to have people people like me. I get around this by saying, oh, cool, I'm just going to charge this unit that's 4 inches away. And then the way I'm going to block myself, I'm going to pile in and I'll end up in engagement range of the unit that's 8 inches away anyway, without having to take the risk of doing the 8-inch charge. This is just skipping that step. It's getting rid of some of the tedium that is involved in the game. And I'm really, really here for it. It's going to make the game just less tedious, and it's going to speed it up for everyone. So things like that, I think, are freaking awesome. And I really, really do appreciate it. It's kind of a big deal. Then we also have a new keyword. Now, this one actually kind of blew my mind. Cleave is a keyword. Cleave is effectively blast in melee. So I think what their idea of cleave is to kind of change the concept of sweep attacks. So it's like now, depending on how many models are in the unit, you get to roll extra attacks based off the models around. So I think that cleave keyword is actually a really cool one. The idea of pile-ins and consolidates is actually really interesting. This one I'm really interested to put it to the test on the table because I'm not sure how it's going to go yet. We will adapt to it. So even if we don't like it at first, you're going to adapt. As far as I can tell, our forced base-to-base thing is gone. But all of our pile-ins will now happen at the same time. Some people are really concerned that if you have to pile in your entire army at the same time and then make all of your attacks, then your opponent's just going to put one unit in a line, which means that almost all of your army won't get to attack because you'll kill the unit with your first unit, and since everyone else has already piled in, now they can't swing. That has been that's taken care of. They have to consider that. Thank goodness they wrote the rules well. And because now we have this overrun concept where you will get to do a second pile in to get into engagement range. So it can just give you even more movement, which is actually really cool. I like that a lot. Makes life a lot better. On top of this whole pile in, we have the new fights first mechanic. Guys, stop saying this one thing. Do me a favor. There's something that people are saying, which is just bothering me. They're saying fights first is dead. Fights first no longer exists. Fights first is now useless. That is so unbelievably wrong. Fights first is not dead. Fights first is not useless. Fights first is effectively a free heroic intervention. That's profound. How many of you have won a game because you had 2 CP to spend on combat interrupt? How many of you have lost plenty of games because your opponent interrupted at the correct spot? Like, you can think of fights first as just a free combat interrupt. That is an incredibly powerful ability. I admit it's not as defensively powerful as it currently is in 10th edition. It's certainly toned down a little bit, but it is still an incredibly powerful ability. Please stop saying that fights first is dead. And another thing, guys, this is not rumor. This right here, this is just me giving an explanation, okay? This is not gospel. I promise you. I have no idea if this is real. I'm just using this as an example. We also, by the way, don't know if fights last is a thing. Fights last could be a thing in 11th edition. It was a thing in 9th edition. You had the fights last step. It could also be in 11th edition. So if you have fights first, could count out like a fights last thing. So just stop. I don't know. Actually, I notice. I recognize a lot of you guys in the chat, so I'd be willing to bet you guys are not the ones who are like freaking out about this. But please do not worry. The Lionel Johnson is not dead. He's still incredible. Just because fights first is slightly toned down, he's still very, very good. So fights first still totally exist, and there's still a lot of rules that we don't have. It's totally okay. Jeez. This is most definitely a username. That's an awesome username. He's a little bit behind the stream, but he heard something about whiskey-infused beer. Yes, if you come to Mechlin and join us for the War Master and the World Teams Championship, you too can drink whiskey-infused beer, and you too can make terrible decisions in a game that has really high stakes. So, yeah, that would be the place to freaking do it. This whole thing about the new engagement range. Let's talk about this for a second. This 2-inch engagement range. This is kind of a cool concept to me. This is similar to what they do in AOS where you have like a 3-inch engagement range. The big difference is that engagement range will not exist for movement. So you can move within engagement range of enemies while you're moving, which is actually a huge change to the way move blocking works. So if you guys are playing 10th edition, move blocking, basically a scout model can easily move block a model by being 5.5 inches away from it. If you're 5-ish inches, I think it would be 5 inches away from a Gladiator Lancer, for example, you have still move blocked it because it can't move within an engagement range of you. That's going to change completely in 11th edition. You're going to have to be 3.9 inches, away from, like, say, if this is the wall, you're going to have to stand like 3.9 inches away from the wall to stop a Lancer from going through. You won't be able to stand like 4.9 or 5 inches away because now you can move through engagement range. That's actually a really big deal. It's actually a really, really big deal. So that engagement range matters quite a bit. It's also, once again, going to clean things up tremendously. Now, no longer do you have to worry about, are you base to base with a model that's base to base with an enemy model? It's actually very, very frustrating. And these are things that like models can get knocked over on the table. It just makes things tedious and slows things down. So the pilot mechanics with the engagement range, it's going to be so much faster. This game is going to be a lot freaking faster. Like, a lot faster, and I'm so excited for it. Johnny says that a local brewery in Colorado does rum barrel aged stouts, and they're dope. I believe you, and I'm gonna need you to send me one. There, it's your fault for coming up with that information because now I need it. So now you have to send it to me. Just the way it is. Yeah, and then. That was basically all the fight mechanics that I kind of want to talk about. So what I want to do is I'm going to go to some of these faction focuses. And there's some really cool stuff that I want to like just kind of start fanboying about here. So I actually haven't really read through these. I've been really busy because I've been negotiating some contracts this week. And I am freaking pumped for these things. So first off, as far as I can tell, all of the detachments that have been released this week and these faction focuses are all 1-point detachments. So let's just start with the orcs. And I can already tell you there's some cool stuff that we're going to do with this. So the first one is the Roland Death, and the ability for the Roland Death. Man, Battle Wagon, Hunter Rig, Killer Rigs have the wagon keyword. And these things get to auto advance 6 inches. That kind of awesome. That's basically super, super awesome. Imagine stacking this with another detachment that really wants you to say, I don't know, get out after your wagon's advance and charge. I'm sure something like that's going to pop up. This is going to give you hyper mobility. It does stack with the wall, so you can always charge after it. It's actually pretty dope, man. Like, that's a hyper dope ability. Just getting auto advance on your massive Land Raider like transports. I kind of love that. The enhancement for it will give you +1 to charge when you make disembark moves. And remember, guys, these abilities for get bonuses to the charge is actually really strong in 11th edition because effectively all the charges that you're typically used to making have gained +1 range because now we measure from the bases, not from engagement range. So previously, if you were say 9 inches away from your opponent, a 9 would make the charge here in 10th edition. But in 11th edition, if you're 9 inches away from your opponent, you'll need a 10 to actually complete that charge. So it's like getting modifiers to your charges is actually a very, very big deal. Like a very, very big deal. So I think that's awesome. Really big fan. The stratagem, they have the Brutal Broadside. Your shooting phase when a friendly battle wagon unit is selected to shoot. This sucks. I can guarantee you orc shooting still sucks and that this is completely useless. I love this comment. It says, imagine how much carnage your kill cannon will do. I guarantee that carnage will be practically 0. Like there's almost no way that's not going to be 0, dude. This is just like a preview that's here to like make us all laugh. I absolutely love it. Man, are you guys in chat like wishing that it was 2nd edition? That's an interesting choice. All right. Man, I was not really around for 2nd edition, but if I'm not mistaken, that was when they had, because that was when I played Kid Hammer. If I'm not mistaken, that was when we had like blast templates, right? Man, could you imagine having an argument with your opponent at the table to see, like, is it 7 models or is it 7.5 models or is that last model 0.1? Is he 10% covered by the blast marker or is he? Gosh, that would be like the worst possible freaking argument to ever have on the table. I'm really glad blast templates and stuff are gone. Although, I'm sad that you guys are not enjoying the game that you enjoyed so much. So, I'm kind of torn with it. All right, this tactical brigade one. Friendly Storm Boys have the battle line, and when friendly boys command a Storm Boys, make an advance or fallback, they're still eligible to start in action. So this is really interesting to me. It means that we're going to get massive, massive reworks. And the reason why I'm going specifically through the orcs, and I'll look and give you some thoughts on some of the other ones I'm going to go through as well, but the reason I'm specifically going through the orcs is because I think it really shows us a point that we're getting dramatic changes to the detachments when we switch over to 11th. Like GW has written a lot. This rule is incredibly different than the rule that Tactical Brigade actually has in 10th edition. Like, this is a complete rework. This isn't just, we're not just getting, detachments with like 1 or 2 words swapped. We're getting like completely new detachments when they said they reworked these detachments. And I think that's actually a very, very important thing to recognize. Like, you're not going to have the same options you had in 10th edition. I hear a lot of people like kind of theory crafting in their head, be like, oh, well, I could take this Blitz Brigade and I could add it to like, or this Roland Def and I could add it to Warhorde. Something tells me Warhorde is going to be very different. I accept I could be wrong, but like, they're rewriting these detachments. Tactical Brigade gives orders to orcs, and that is nowhere listed here. Like, nowhere listed here. That's a really big difference. I mean, this enhancement is similar. Means that you can still attach a war boss to your freaking commandos, which I don't know why you would ever do that, but you could. And this is still a stratagem that is basically still around, that is currently around in 10th edition as well. But that detachment rule that's dramatically different, man. Dramatically different. All right. 000 wants to ask, do you think the Blitz Brigade sticks around or gets replaced with Roland Death? Pure speculation. Sure. It feels like there's a good bit of overlap on what those detachments want to do. Yeah, man, honestly, I don't know. Like, I try not to speculate on things like that. So I don't know. I just try not to speculate on that. I just think that we don't really. How do I say this? I don't know. I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna take another drink. All right, let's talk about Daka Daka Daka. Which, by the way, this is a hill I'm gonna die on. This was the largest over nerf in the history of 40k. I cannot believe how irrational this over nerf was. The only one that was close to this was Legion of Excess. How hard that over nerf hit. Even yes, Eldar players. I know Eldar players are gonna feel personally attacked by this when I say that Mordaka was more heavily over nerfed than Eldar was. But it was. Guys, this detachment existed for a week and a half. And then Games Workshop came down and like not even halved, like took away 75% of the firepower of this detachment. Like it was brutal. This detachment had sustained hits too, which yeah, fair play. It was actually pretty good shooting. Like it was a gunline army. But guess what? People never even had the opportunity to be like, hey, you know what? It's orcs. But they're a gunline army. Maybe we just shouldn't stand out in the open against orcs when they have the same shooting capacity of guard. Like, yeah, you're right. You probably just shouldn't stand out in the open and get shot. No one even had an opportunity to even try to adapt to Mordaka. I will die on this hill. And I never even played Mordaka, mind you. I was a Warhorde boy the entire time. But, like, that was the biggest, fastest over nerf in GW history. I'm still salty about it. That's fine. Baker's like, the original Daka 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 was busted. Bro, you played it for a week. You don't even know that. Yeah, okay, fair play, 000. The Space Marine Detachment armored spear chip was nerfed pretty quick as well. Fair play. It wasn't nerfed as bad, but it was nerfed pretty damn quick. You're not wrong when you say that. All right, the new Daka Daka. Friendly Orcs infantry units have assault. And in your shooting phase, if the WA is active for your army, friendly Orcs infantry units have sustained hits 1. This sucks. Now, in the context of 11th edition, if we get new rules, no problems. But this is not good. It's keyword locked to infantry. I do know that there's some people who are excited about it, and God bless you. I'm excited that you're excited for it. Yeah. Dead Shiny Shooters, this is basically the same thing that they already have, where you can just add rapid fire to the unit that they lead. Called Daka. You can do a snap shooting shot, which is cool, I guess. But you're not tough enough to survive anything. This detachment, I definitely understand why this is a 1-point detachment. There's not really anything particularly great in this. So, the reason why I want to go through those orc detachments is not actually to cry about anything. I actually think it's really cool to be able to add those detachments together. It's, I think, to start recognizing a couple truths. One truth is that all of the detachments are going to be really different. Like, dramatically different from what they currently are in the new edition. It's not like going to be a 1-to-1 port. Oh, play Warhorde in 10th, play Warhorde in 11th. Things are going to be really, really different. But 2, we're really going to have to get super intimate with the idea of mixing detachments to build some really cool things. Because if you read this and you are filtering it through a 10th edition mindset like I just did, well, that kind of sucks. It literally only applies to orc infantry, blah, 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 blah. But if you read it in context of an 11th edition where you have potentially 2 other detachments that you're mixing and blending with that, then it might be incredible. That's what I want people to get through their heads. Because if you're reading some of these detachments that have been released, I don't care if it's going to be Tyranids, I don't care if it's Chaos Space Marines, I don't care if it's Votann, I don't care if it's Eldar. If you're reading your detachments and you're sad because you're like, oh, these don't really jive with me, live with me here. You got to stop reading it through a 10th edition filter. These things are in the context of the fact that you're going to have 2 other detachment rules that are also going to be blending in with it. So on its face, while this looks like it's not good, oh boy, it might be absolutely incredible because of the other things that you're going to be blending it with. So that's really why I wanted to go through the orcs in particular, because, I don't know, orcs are dear to my heart, and I guess our Discord has a ton of orcs players, so I want to get that out there for everybody. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys to hear. Hopefully that was helpful for everyone here. Okay, let's talk about some of these Space Marine freaking ones. These are actually looking really interesting to me. There was clearly a lot more. Folger's Task Force. By the way, this is the most disappointing model I think Games Workshop has released. Now, I'm a GW fanboy, but this Landspeeder is the exact same thing as the old Landspeeder. Like, they just took the old Landspeeder out of the closet and was like, here you go. Here's a land speeder. Like, I don't know if they put any effort at all into building that land speeder. And I'm not a modeling guy. I'm a playing guy. I like to play the game. But, yeah. Anyway, just lazy. I thought I'd come out with that. All right. Detachment rule. Sky Strike. Friendly land speeder and storm speeder, guys. In your movement phase, first movement phase, speeder units can make an ingress move. This is probably incredibly powerful. So for all of you guys who have been like dying to really be able to spam those storm speeders that you got out of the freaking Leviathan box. The storm speeder wasn't in Leviathan. The storm speeders were in the other boxes. Whatever. For all of you who have been dying to spam your storm speeders, this detachment is going to give you that freaking opportunity. Turn 1 ingresses on all of those. Remember what I said earlier. What we know is that you can never turn 1 ingress unless it's specifically stated in your abilities. And this detachment rule very specifically states in your first movement phase, you get to ingress with speeder units. This is going to be very powerful, especially on the new layouts where all the terrain is going to be very central. You're going to be able to come in from behind. Your opponent better be screening you super early or they can get hurt real fast with this. So, I think that right off the bat, that's a very powerful detachment rule. Bellicose weapon spirits, speeder units can reroll damage rolls, and then they get to reroll the attacks of a weapon. Okay, that's pretty cool. And then they're going to have a reactive move of D3+3. Okay, great, super good. Like I can definitely see where that is very, very useful. If this is a 1-point freaking ability, then or detachment rule, then that's great for 1 point. Librarius Conclave. All right, Psychic Disciplines. At the start of the first battlefield, select one of the following Psychic Discipline abilities. Friendly Adeptus Astartes Psyker units have those abilities until the end of the battle round. +2 move, reroll hit and wound rolls of 1. Or +1 AP against things within 12 inches of you. Or -1 strength when people shoot at you. Or ignore modifiers to ballistic skill, weapon skill, and hit rolls. Telepathy Discipline is going to be very powerful for ignoring that new cover rule of -1 ballistic skill. Very, very powerful. Like, very, very strong. I actually think that's really, really interesting. So, yep. All right. Each discipline also opens up access to an additional psychic power. So one of the enhancements you can give for a psychic model only at the end of your opponent's fight phase, you can place that unit into reserves. If they have psychic discipline, they get deep strike. Very cool. But is that for the psychic model only? Huh. This unit. Okay, no, all right, you can. So what this means, what I think this is going to mean, and I could be wrong, what I believe this is going to mean is that this enhancement can not be given to a unit. It needs to be given to a leader. So it's saying Psyker model only. And now that leader's attached to the unit, so now the unit can utilize it. But you can't put it on a unit without a leader. I think that's what that's saying. Because remember, in 11th edition, your characters, when they attach to units at the list building step, it happens actually at the list building step, not at the pre-game steps of the battle. So your leader and the unit is going to be one unit now, as opposed to like the attached unit that it is in 10th edition. So I think that's why that wording is like that way. That's cool. Subversion assets. Now this one is actually really interesting to me because I love Phobos units. Raven Guard is my favorite Marines chapter, but I just hate the way that Raven Guard play on the tabletop. So, well, I guess that's not fair. I mean, I don't like the Vanguard invaders, or not the Vanguard invaders. The Vanguard spearhead, I think, is whatever. The Raven Guard detachment for Space Marines. I just don't like that one detachment. But maybe I like the way Raven Guard plays. They just didn't really get any support this edition. All right, so friendly Phobos and Scout units. In your shooting phase, this unit can select one visible enemy unit within 12 inches, and that unit is detected. Well, a unit is detected, that unit has +3 to its detection range. That is actually quite cool. So now suddenly your opponents don't have 15-inch loan up. Now they're going to have 18-inch loan up. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that is what that is saying, which is pretty cool. Pretty darn cool. War Ride showed up. He says, "Hey, everybody." We say, "Hey, everybody," to you, War Ride. We love you. Strike from the shadows. Your shooting phase when a friendly Phobos or scout unit has shots. Ranged attacks do not prevent your unit from being hidden. Very powerful. This is actually really, really cool. I just wonder if we're going to get Phobos units that actually have good shooting. That would be interesting. And then lastly, enhancements like that. And then if you guys were wondering where I was getting the abilities, where I was reading like what stealth does and stuff, this is where it comes from. Stealth, now you get the benefit of cover, so that means that you are going to be, your opponent's always going to be -1 ballistic skill when they're shooting you, when you have stealth, things like that. Always powerful. And no, it's highly unlikely. I can't say no because I haven't read the rules, the official rules, but it's highly unlikely that you can stack stealth with also getting the normal benefit of cover. So it's very unlikely they're going to give anyone -2 ballistic skill if you have stealth and you're in cover naturally as well. That's just almost certainly not going to be a thing. The Black Templars actually had a really cool one. I don't know how powerful it is, but it's really, really cool. Basically, they can just turbo charge a single Emperor's Champion, which is really, really cool. He now gets to reroll a hit roll and a wound roll, and he can take enhancements, which is pretty sick. Such as any of these. In the fight phase, when this unit is selected to fight, if they're engaged with an enemy character unit, you can give him devastating wounds. Dope. You can give him -3 to his detection range. So instead of being 15-inch loan up, he's 12-inch loan up. You just give him +2 attacks. You can give your opponents a hazardous. These are cool. Like, all these abilities are cool. I like them. They're all dope. This one's a little weird, and it gives me a little bit of like pause. So the Blood Angels. When a friendly Death Company unit is selected to make an advance move, you can just make them take D3+1 mortals. And now they're eligible to advance and charge effectively. That's interesting. It's kind of cool if you have other ways to give advance and charge, so it can give you like with a strat, for example, so that you can give multiple units. I'm a little concerned about that. Like, I gotta be honest, I'm a little concerned about that. That seems like a pretty pricey thing to do if you're trying to just get advance and charge. But it's cool. This is something that I'm really looking at though. Something that this is just, I don't know this. What I'm about to say, I don't know this, but I suspect, and I severely suspect, that in 11th edition, we're going to get, these chapters are going to have their own codexes. Black Templars are going to be a codex. I don't think that they're going to be Codex Space Marines, and you can use these 2 extra detachments. I think they're going to be their own codexes on their own, similar to how like T-Suns, Death Guard, World Eaters are their own individual codexes. They're their own armies. I think this is finally going to be the time where we see the individual chapters start to spread out into different actual codexes. And I hope that's correct. I hope that's true. 11th edition was a little bit boring with just all Marines being Oath Moment. Like, give us our own flavor. I think that's going to be, I hope that's what I'm seeing here. This is just something tickling my little chinny chin chin. So I think that's what I'm seeing. Yeah. Okay, that's where we got Heroic Intervention, so we got all the rules for that, which we covered earlier. Rage Fueled Response. Surge move for Death Company only. I mean, that's cool. Dark Angels, they should have Awesome Plasma. This is actually really fun. Oh, 000 saying Codex Ultramarines, you disgust me. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me, bro. Don't do it. Which one of these guys, like, what do you guys think, by the way? My theory that I just said, do you think this is going to be the actual edition where we're going to get our own codexes for the individual Space Marine chapters? Because I really, really think now is the time where they're going to make the move. Just because of just how much Warhammer has grown over the last few years. Like, bro, dude, I was looking at some numbers the other day, and I don't have them memorized, but the participation of 40K in 10th edition, it's like more than double what it was around the world in 9th edition. Like, this thing has blown up. I mean, we're going to be seeing some crazy things when it comes to competition in 11th edition. You guys are hearing it here. This is my prediction is that we're going to have tournaments with $100,000 prize pools. Like, I think it's going to be happening in the next 4 or 5 years. I think we'll be there. Like, it's kind of insane what the participation of 40K is. So I think now is actually the time where we're going to start seeing these individual chapters branch out to be their own armies, which I really, really hope that's true. And it's probably going to be done in a similar way that the Chaos guys did, I would assume. So, like, all chaos has access to a defiler. Basically, all chaos has access to a lander. Basically, all chaos has access to a predator destructor. But they don't all have access to everything, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Black Templars, Space Wolves, if these guys get limited access to the units that other Space Marine chapters get, but they start restricting them. But they also get their own rules. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. I kind of hope it does. I just kind of hope it does. Plasma weapons get +1 strength. But what do you guys think? Do you think that's possible? Because I think it's super possible. Not only do I think it's possible, I think it's very likely. All right, so +1 strength, kind of dope. Makes sense. I think it's awesome. Petition of stability enhancement. You can also get them an extra 6 inches. It's kind of cool to the range, so you can get stronger plasma, I guess. I'm not a Hellblaster fan. Not that I like. I've run them because I had an Unforgiven task force list that I was running for a little bit, where I was running Azrael with the Hellblasters inside of Storm Raven, and giving them both sustain and lethal, sometimes on 5s with full rolls to hit, was actually pretty dope. And then in Unforgiven, you could also spend 1 CP to shoot on death. So like, like you would shoot, one guy would die, he would shoot again, you would have sustain and lethals on 5s the whole time. And then you would Overwatch with sustained hits with 4 rolls to hit if it was going to Oath target. You know, if you weren't going to Oath target, it was just sustained hits. And then if anyone died on a 3-up, they would shoot again with their sustained hits. And then you would immediately, when your opponent shot you, let's say they kill a few models, they would shoot on death potentially, and then you would spend a CP to shoot the entire unit with sustained. It was actually pretty dope. But that's like the only scenario where I've ever enjoyed Hellblasters. So, I don't know. And then you got a stratagem to give them +1 strength as well. So +6 inches to a range of Hellblasters, +2 strength. That's cool. Seems useful. If you guys are into plasma, then that's pretty dope. It actually is really good for Redemptor Dreadnoughts, I think, right? So if you're really enjoying your Redemptor Dreadnoughts, taking them from strength 9 to strength 10 is actually kind of huge. Now that's of course in a 10th edition context. Maybe it's less profound in 11th edition. We'll have to find out. Yeah. All right. Let's do the Space Wolves. And then, ooh, I didn't realize how late it is. I'm probably going to get running here. I'll quickly go through, I think, the new stuff today, because I'm actually pretty interested in that. I haven't taken a look at it yet. Space Wolf Champions of Fenris, the Great Wolf watches. Friendly Adeptus Astartes infantry character units have countercharge. They get to heroic intervention. That's awesome. Everyone in the army gets to heroic intervention. Remember. Oh, all right, hold on. Now, once per battle round, per unit, you could target the unit with heroic intervention, regardless of any other uses of the stratagem this phase. If you do, does it prevent use of that stratagem on other units? Does this mean that everyone can just use it for free, or does it mean that you're allowed to spend it on multiple units? So let's say that I wanted to use that 2 CP version to charge something within 6 inches that hadn't charged. Can I just spend 2 CP on this unit and then also spend 2 CP on this unit? Or do they both get to use the heroic intervention for free? I'm not sure. I didn't actually watch the video. Did you guys watch the video on this one? I missed this one. So if anyone watched that one, do me a favor and type it in. All right. It's not free. Okay. Fair. Thanks for telling me that. Remove equalizer. Appreciate it. But that's still, I mean, that's cool. It's just, holy crap, that's an expensive detachment ability to have. Again, extremely expensive detachment ability to have, seeing as, like, you're probably only going to have the CP to do that on one unit anyway. That's tough. That's real tough. Giant amongst giants, +2 wounds, +1 strength on a character. Whatever. Not interesting to me. You can give stealth. I think that's good, because you're like, people are thinking that you're always gonna have -1+ skill because you're always gonna be in cover. But remember, in this edition, like, all the terrain is right in the center of the board. There's going to be a lot of scenarios where you're not going to be in terrain and you're not going to have cover. I think it's going to be much harder to get cover in 11th edition than it was in 10th edition. So I don't think strats like this are actually bad. I think this is probably going to be quite useful. So, yeah, those are the Marines. I think the Marines had some cool stuff in the works that have been revealed. But remember, this is in context without this is without the context of the full release. So I really, really do like that Def Rolla thing that the works had for the auto 6-inch advances. I'm going to quickly go through some of this new chaos stuff, because this is where we got some spice. This is the video I was watching here, and actually let's all listen to it together real quick. The beautiful Australian Adam here is going to explain to us how psychic weapons work. So just
Only this model has this model has Psyker, so it's going to give them Psyker, and their weapons are going to become Psychic. Now, the giving something Psychic means that they ignore modifiers to the hit roll. So this gives them ignores cover in addition to getting around stealth and many other hit modifiers.
all right, I don't know if you guys could hear that. I could hear it just fine. If you could hear it, great. If you couldn't, I'll just tell you what he said. He said psychic weapons give you the ability to ignore hit modifiers. That's cool. One of the big issues for a lot of people in 10th edition was that psychic weapons was basically only a nerf. Like, it was a bad thing to have psychic weapons because all it did is give certain units a Fiona Pain against you. But, like, that's a really cool buff. It means they ignore all hit modifiers. I think that's cool. I think that's really dope. Johnny wants to know, can I explain why I think getting cover will be harder in 11th? Well, the reason why I think getting cover is going to be a little bit harder in 11th, and listen, I could be completely wrong on this. I have not played 11th. I don't have access to the rules. GW does not love me. They're not giving me previews. Ooh, jeez. Although, if you want to love me and give me previews, I'm very willing to accept it. The reason why I think is because just from the layouts that we've seen, all the terrain seems to be very centralized in the center of the battlefield. Meaning anywhere that's not just the center of the battlefield, it looks like you're just not generally going to be that close to terrain, which means getting cover is going to be pretty freaking hard. So it seems doing things like just having the ability to give yourself stealth on demand is probably better than what a lot of us are expecting initially. That's my theory. Except I could be wrong. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about some of these chaos things, and then I have got to run because I'm a sleepy boy. I have a 1.5-year-old, and yes, I have a bedtime now. It is what it is. Empiric Wall Springs. In your shooting phase, when a friendly Heretic Astartes Psyker unit is selected to shoot, if that unit makes a dark pack, the ranged attacks have +1 strength. Okay, cool. Now it only applies to Psyker units, but that's cool. You can attach Psykers to a lot of things. In the fight phase, when a friendly Heretic Astartes Demon Prince unit, excluding Khorne, get wrecked Khorne, you're a nerd anyway, is selected to fight. If that unit has made a Dark Pact, you're always going to make a Dark Pact, I assume. Then you get +2 strength and +1 AP. That is a really strong buff. Like, +2 strength and +1 AP is a huge buff on Demon Princes. Now, I don't know if we're going to have anywhere near as, like, if invulnerable saves are going to be as common in 11th edition as they were in 10th. I suspect they will be, but that is a very, very powerful ability. I'm just not sure if Demon Princes are going to be great, but if they are, then that's really strong. Touched by the Warp, you can just give a unit Psyker, and they can get Psychic. That's pretty cool. What? And then they get a Fleshy Curse. This is actually very similar to a stratagem that they already have in the Cabal of Chaos, which, by the way, Cabal of Chaos in 10th edition even is one of those detachments that I think is severely under appreciated. I was looking at building something in it, and man, you can do some cool stuff, especially now that Masters of the Maelstrom is a Psyker unit. They actually feed into the strats and the detachment rule really well. So, I actually think that's like really good. It's a lot better than people think it is. Although I do think currently one of the strongest ways to run CSM, which a lot of people aren't doing, but I got a client who just cleaned up with a list, is Fellhammer Siege Host. Fellhammer Siege Host is disgusting right currently. But that's 10th edition stuff. We're talking about 11th edition tonight. Devotees of Destruction. This detachment has given us the new heavy keyword. So what does the heavy keyword do now? In your shooting phase, each time an attack is made with a heavy weapon, you get to add 1 to the hit roll if all of the following apply. You're unengaged, which means now heavy cannot help offset the -1 to be hit if you're in combat, although we don't know if there is a -1 to be hit in combat in 11th edition, so it is what it is. The unit was not set up on the battlefield this turn, and no model in this unit has moved more than 3 inches. So you can actually move and still use heavy, which does tend to make me think that heavy might actually be a little bit usable in 11th edition, which is cool. Because the reality is if you don't move at all for a weapon, then you're either lucky or you're not shooting your weapon in 10th edition. So in 11th edition, though, it looks like they're trying to make it so you can use heavy. I think that's a cool change. I think that's quite a cool change. Okay, so this is an enhancement for the Path of Destruction. You get to reroll leadership rolls on dark packs. That's cool, and you can heal. And then Ruination's Bounty. Your shooting phase when a friendly Havocs or Obliterators unit is selected to shoot. When you use Dark Packs, your units have lethal. I believe this means lethal or sustained hits, not lethal and sustained hits. So yeah, I wonder if Dark Packs is going to be the same, where you'll just get lethal or sustained hits. So this is just giving you the other half of it. That would be cool. That would be cool. Murder Talon Raiders. So I think this is the new Night Lords detachment, which I played the Nightmare Hunts. That detachment is strong, by the way. I've played it a couple times now. Very strong. I lost the first time I ran it because it's a little bit tricky, but then I won like 4 games in a row with it. So I think the Nightmare Hunt is actually a really, really powerful detachment. I'm just generally surprised we're not seeing it very much. I think people are just so Defiler blind right now that they're really not thinking about a lot of the other really cool stuff that is available to CSM. But, I don't blame them. The Defiler model's freaking dope. Like, uber dope. Although, holy crap, I saw enough of them at my GT this past weekend. Wow, there are a lot of them. Anyway, all right, let's talk about this detachment. Prey of the Week. Friendly Heretic Astartes Infantry Fly units. That is very specific. I believe that is exclusively going to be Raptors and Warp Talons. I don't think they have anything else that has Fly. That target Battle Shock units or a unit at or below half strength can reroll hit rolls of 1. That is decidedly not exciting. But, like I said, you remember, we're always stacking these detachments with other detachments. This is a 1-point detachment. It is what it is. Now, this is a cool wording that I'm seeing here, by the way. I actually really like this wording. Or a unit that is at or below half strength, which is much better, which means that if you have like a 2-model unit and one of the models is dead, you're now at half strength. So these abilities will kick in. This is one of the wordings that in 10th edition made all of those units that are below half starting strength. Those abilities basically effectively never get used, which meant that units that had that ability effectively don't have an ability. Just adding that one word, at or below half strength, means that those abilities might actually be useful now, which is quite cool. I actually like that a lot. Okay. And then lastly, if that enemy unit is battle shocked or at or below half strength, they can have -1 to their hit rolls. So this is actually the first time I've seen this wording, which means that there are going to be ways to have -1 to ballistic skill and -1 to hit rolls. So you will be able to stack these things in various ways. So that's cool. Because you can really screw people up. If you give them -1 ballistic skill and -1 to hit, that's effectively a -2 to hit on shooting attacks. That is, dang, that's profound. That's brutal. Okay, and then we have Chaos Lord jump back, gives his unit a 5 in 1. Cool. Oh, this is also really interesting here, guys. So if we read this paragraph right above, it says, of course, the best way to avoid damage is to kill everything before they can swing back in the first place. A swift descent with the plunging talon stratagem will tip the scales further in your favor because everyone loves re-rolling wound rolls. But interestingly enough, the ability that is given from the stratagem is Lance. Does Lance now give re-roll wound rolls? I believe it does. That is a very, very interesting one. Very, very interesting. We have Chaos Demons. Chaos Demons get 3 detachments as well. I actually did look through these, and now that I remember, and these were actually pretty cool. It also gives us a new keyword in 11th, which is very exciting. I like these keywords, and the reason why I like these keywords is it makes it so much easier to know your opponent's abilities. Because, like, if there's a dozen different ways to get the ability to move through walls, for example, then you can't just say the name of a stratagem to your opponent. You need to tell them what your stratagems do. But if you just say, hey, he has the mobility keyword, as we'll just like, where is it? The mobile keyword. Mobile, just every unit that has mobile gets to move through walls. Like, that's cool. Okay, great. It makes it so much easier to communicate what your armies do to your opponents because the keywords are standardized across units. This is something that they started doing in 10th edition, but I'm really happy to see that they're improving upon it for 11th edition. So I'm really glad that they're getting like these keywords that are these universal keywords that are just going to help people understand their opponent's armies in really, really good ways. Actually, as an aside onto that, that's also something that I've been hearing about for the app. So the app is going to be configured in such a way that you're going to be able to share your army and abilities with your opponent via the app. So you'll actually be able to see your opponent's capabilities in the 40K app, which is cool. I think that's really, really cool. I'll probably just be a lazy bum and say, hey, bro, what does your thing do? But that's because I'm a lazy bum. For those of you who are not lazy bums and actually read on the app, then I'm sure that's going to be really, really useful. So let's talk about this first, freaking the Cavalcade of Chaos for the Chaos Demons. Unholy Avalanche. If a friendly Legions Demonica mounted unit made a fallback move this turn, that move does not prevent that unit from being able to shoot or declare charge. So advance your charge with all that stuff. Space Heretic says standardized. What's wrong? What's funny about that? Standardized? Did I say it stupidly? I believe I did. All right, I accept I said something stupid, but I don't know what I said. All right, enhancement, Soul Shattering Charge. If this unit made a charge move this turn, you can use this ability, and if you do, when determining which models in the unit can fight, friendly models get a 3-inch engagement range, so they become an AOS unit. That's cool. Increased engagement range is cool. And then lastly, we have the Warp Riders Stratagem. You can just give your unit mobile so they get to move through walls. That's sick. Blood Crushers are going to absolutely love this. This was a really interesting detachment, the Lords of the Warp. Basically, it loves the units that are characters but not greater demons. So friendly Legions Demonica character units that are not monsters, so no greater demons, they get +1 leadership and OC. That's awesome. The extra leadership synergizes with the Battleshock test bonus from the Shadow of Chaos rule, which means Shadow of Chaos is, at least for in the beginning, going to be sticking around. Guys, if you have Battleshock mechanics in 10th edition that you think suck, get ready for them to abuse your opponents in 11th edition. I can basically guarantee that Battleshock is going to cripple people in 11th edition. Cripple them. I'd be willing to bet that early edition, the people who lack on how to really abuse their Battleshock mechanics are just going to absolutely run train on their opponents, and it's going to be really pretty filthy. Tyranid players who are not hiding in their Tyranid Discord crying about their army rule that is really good, even though they think it sucks. Guys, your army rule is going to be so irrationally powerful in 11th edition if it doesn't change. Units don't automatically on Battleshock in 11th edition, guys. They have to pass test in order to do that. That just changes the game when it comes to Battleshock mechanics. So demons, all those guys, yeah. My goodness. Oh yeah, Johnny, absolutely, you're right. And the Tyranids have a bunch of psychic stuff on top of that are all ignoring hit modifiers. Yeah, like dude, I think Tyranids are going to be freaking bonkers. Shockingly, I'm going to be doing a video next week on the armies to look out for in early 11th. I might be talking about Tyranids. Okay. Swarm with power, +2 wounds to a unit, whatever, to a character that's not a monster. Cool. Carnival of Excess. One friendly Slanesh unit that's not a monster. They get fights first, and they have to be selected 2 fights first. I guess that's basically giving them like a free, or not a free, but like a 1 CP combat interrupt is effectively what that's doing. I think that's cool. Then we have the Warp Tide. This is going to be the last detachment for the Chaos Demons. When a friendly Legions Demonica battle line unit is selected to make an advance move, they get assault, and they can still charge. All battle line gets advanced shoot and charge. That's just a cool freaking ability. Bane Forged Weapons. Units attack get +1 strength. You can just give that to any battle line unit. And remember, everybody, enhancements can be given up to 3 units. So you could give this up to 3 battle line units get +1 strength. That actually really changes a lot of breakpoints. Like, that changes a lot of breakpoints, which I find that's very cool. Okay. And then Demonic Infestation. Your unit heals 3 wounds, as long as you're not a Pink Horse unit. That's a lot. Guys, 11th edition looks dope. I gotta be honest with you. I'm freaking excited about everything. The only thing I think I don't like, and you know, this is with 0 experience, and I actually do want to hear from you guys. Like, what are the things you don't like? I'm gonna read those before I sign off. But the only thing that I really don't like right now is the way that we select missions. That seems concerning to me. But it might just be a really cool feature of list building that we're going to dive into. I'm really pumped to get the actual rules in my hands so I can start diving into this. Because one of the things I'm going to do for y'all is I'm going to start hosting like live list building workshops, because list building is going to get so freaking complicated. Like, it's going to get so intricate. Even though I think the game is looking like it's going to run much more smoothly and more quickly, like, I'd be willing to bet, and it's a bet, mind you, that that rounds and tournaments can go 2.5 hours very comfortably with all these changes. Now, I admit I could be wrong. I accept that, but that's a bet I'm making. But list building is getting way more complex between the mixing and matching detachments, and now you get to build for a disposition that chooses your mission based off of what your opponent's disposition is. I think that's going to get incredibly complicated. So that does concern me a little bit, but it also really excites me because it's like, I'm sure there's going to be people booking coaching calls to learn how to do freaking list building, so that's not going to hurt my feelings. But as far as game mechanics are, that's my big concern. What are y'all's big concerns? Here, I'm gonna grab one more beer, and then you guys like type in the chat. Let me know what your big concerns are real quick. Yes, my refrigerator is 3 steps behind me, and it's a glorious experience. You guys don't know how to open up your nitro can. It's always like this. You upend it. I see people like slowly pouring in Guinness cans to avoid the foam. Amateur hour. Amateur hour. I'll have you know, I went to Dublin. I did it. I did the tour. I got officially certified to be able to pour a proper Guinness. So, I'm an authority on these things. Kind of a big deal. So Travis Elliott thinks that his big concern is going to be aircraft will still be dead. Chances are high. Yeah, I gotta be honest with you, man. Dude, aircraft are just so freaking hard to balance in this game. Like, imagine doing it in 11th edition where all the terrain is in the center of the board. So if you just fly over it, there's literally no way to hide. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, that seems pretty tricky to me. I don't see how they balance aircraft. I think it's a really big problem. I think they might have hit the nail on the head with finally figuring out how to balance your indirect shooting. So 10th edition did a pretty good job when they just said you can't hit on better than 4s, but then you could abuse it with like re-rolls, stuff like that still. But I think 11th edition probably has that balanced by just giving people that 15-inch loan up, assuming they haven't shot. I think that's probably a good way to balance the indirect. But yeah, I don't know how they would balance like flyers. I don't get it. Space Heretic is concerned about unforeseen broken combos, growing pains of forced disposition. Yeah, but like, there's always going to be rocky starts at the beginning of an edition, just because there's going to be kinks that need to be worked out. So I understand why you're probably a little concerned about that. That doesn't really concern me. We all understand that the first few months are going to be kind of chaos, but reliable sources have informed me that it's not going to be the chaos of early 10th edition, at least, which is a blessing. 000. He likes all the flexibility of the new detachment system, but it opens the game up to a lot of min-maxing. GW will have to be very on top of this with the updates to swat broken combos. Yeah, it's interesting to me. I almost wonder if the theory is that, like, if we give everyone access to busted stuff, that nothing's going to be busted, or if they're actually just going to be that on top of things. And listen, hey man, fair play. 10th edition, I hear people say all the time that this game is busted and unfair. You're wrong. Like, people who say that are just wrong. This game has been incredibly fair all edition. Like, things that have been broken have been nerfed actually pretty freaking quickly. The only one that lasted like longer than it probably should have was probably Death Guard and Imperial Knights, because they lasted for almost 6 months if memory serves, before they got knocked down a little bit. But I think that was the only one that was really stuck around for too long. I mean, at the beginning of 10th edition, the first year, literally everything was busted. Do you guys remember when Death Watch could just do like 62 mortal wounds and it turned you like for free? Eldar could do the same, like yeah, all those things. But after that, I think the balance team has just done a really, really good job. I'm honestly very impressed with how good a job the balance team does. This is a rant. Okay, I'm doing it. You guys, all right. You did it to me. You did it, Denton. All right, here we go. We do not want 40k to be balanced. You don't want 40k to be balanced. I don't want 40k to be balanced. We want the game to be in a place of relative unbalance, but fairness. We want everyone to have fair rules, but unbalanced rules. You do not want my orcs to play the same way as Space Marines. You don't want my orcs to have the same abilities as Space Marines. We do not want Tyranids to have the same ability and playstyle as the Adeptus Custodes. That's not what we desire. If we wanted a perfectly balanced game, we would go play chess, which is way more boring than 40k. Way more boring. Now, do I think chess is a bad game? No, I do not. But it is nowhere near as fun and exciting and cool as Warhammer 40,000. Because there is a certain amount of, hey, this game is fundamentally unbalanced, and that is a good thing. It gives us stuff to conquer. It gives us problems to solve. This is a good thing. We just want it to be fair in its unbalance. That's what we're doing. And in 10th edition, GW did a pretty dang good job of maintaining that balance. Of course, there were times. There were times where things got a little out of hand, but yeah. Okay, let's take a look a little bit more here. Glad demons are still a solo faction. Yeah, I think that's awesome. They should be. I spoke to one of the guys at the World Championships, and he was like, one of the new Codex writers they hired is like a super big Demons fan, and they were going to be canceling it, but he was like, nah, screw this, I'm going to write a Demon Codex. And they were like, okay, fine, we'll keep Demons, because he raised hell about it. Okay, so this is mostly definitely a username. Terrain layouts are a little bit concerning to me after the mission stuff. What we have been shown currently are open swaths of land into deployment zones with reduced screening range. Yes, I do understand that. I do understand that. Chris, I am not going to chug a Guinness. I'm going to enjoy my Guinness. My wife and daughter are actually out of town for the weekend. So I'm going to probably pass out, in my boxers on the couch. It's going to be glorious. Okay. Let's see. Super excited to play 11th as part of a beer and pretzels because I think the rule of cool will be easier to adapt into a list. What? I'm not sure I understand that. But I'm really excited that you're going to have fun with it. Cool. Fun coincidence, the best Warhammer 40k player and the best chess player are both in Norway. Oh, shucks. Did you know that I am actually Magnus Carlsen? Basically what I do is before I go into interviews, I just do this. And then I'm Magnus Carlsen. I'm actually not. That's not true. But anyway, guys, I think this is it, man. I think I did it. I've been on for like an hour and a half. I love the fact that you guys came and hung out with me. I'm super pumped about 11th edition. I hope all of you guys are super pumped about 11th edition. Please do me a favor and stop playing 11th, though. I see people doing 11th edition battle reports. I see people doing 10th edition games with 11th edition terrain. Don't do it. You're going to make yourself worse once 11th edition rolls around because you're going to have to unlearn rules that you learned wrong. Do yourself a favor. Do me a favor and just don't do that, okay? Once 11th edition drops, play the crap out of it and have a blast with it. I'm going to have so much content coming out for everyone. Remember, my motto, all my information is free. It'll be all free. I'll have tons of free stuff out there for you. The only things that I ask for is if you appreciate it, you buy me a beer. And if you want implementation, then you can hit me up for coaching. But I'm going to give you as much information as I possibly can to get you guys going when it comes to 11th edition. I'm going to help you work out the kinks. I'm going to be hosting these online workshops for list building where I'm actually going to break people up into little groups, and I'll be entering the groups to like help people solve different list building problems and stuff. I'm actually really excited about the stuff that we have coming up on the channel, which is really, really dope. And I would be remiss if I did not let everyone know. As far as coaching stuff is concerned, if you guys are looking for coaching, now would be a great time to hop in because prices are going up in about 2 weeks. I'm very blessed. We've had a big demand for it, and time is running very low, so I'm having to free up some time so I can get my content out there. And so now we're raising the prices a little bit. So it's not crazy amounts, but it is happening. So if you're looking to get a few calls in, do it before that happens, or do it after it happens, and I'll love you either way. So with that, I'm gonna pop off here for the evening, and I'm gonna probably go binge watch some My Hero Academia. Yeah, that's probably what's gonna happen. So with that, everyone have a lovely freaking night. I appreciate you all, and crump on.